Is my homophobic mother manipulating me? For context, I am a 21-year-old lesbian who has been with my 20-year-old girlfriend for 3 years now, but we've been friends since we were 11. When I was 16, I realized I was gay, thought I was bi, and wrote about my questioning in a diary I had at the time. My mom found this and confronted me about it. She never mentioned me being gay but mentioned other things on the same page, so I know she saw it, and said how sick reading it made her feel. When I said she had invaded my privacy, she said it was my fault for not hiding it. A year or so later, she directly asked me if I thought any of her kids were gay. I said I was bi, or so I thought at the time, and she pretended she didn't mind, but it became obvious that once she realized it was more than a phase, she was not comfortable with it. She would regularly tell me she didn't understand why, if I have the option to date men, would I put myself through the hard and lonely life of being a lesbian. When I did realize I am a lesbian and not bi and told her this, she got even more angry and said I would never understand how much this hurt her and her struggle of trying not to tell me every day how much she hates it. That she didn't believe I'm gay because it doesn't fit the story, and that if I ever adopted a child with a woman, she would refuse to see them as her grandchild. She is not religious, but keeps talking about how sad the whole thing is, and she doesn't understand why I would do this to her. She also tells me I will never be taken seriously in my career, and that my siblings secretly think the same thing. She says she is not homophobic, but that she knows me and I am not like this. She blames my friends, who are all LGBTQ, for making me think this life is normal or okay, which is where my girlfriend comes in. I have never tried to hide that my girlfriend is my girlfriend, but my mom has always hated her. She says she's weird, and that she made me someone I'm not. When we have family events, she invites my siblings' partners, but actively refuses to let my girlfriend join. I have asked my siblings if they do think she's weird or anything, and they all say no, and my mother has been lying about it. Recently I snapped, because my girlfriend is currently in Canada, and I haven't seen her in over a month, and I miss her. I recently got a tattoo on my arm, nothing vulgar, or anything, just a whale, special interest of mine. I did expect my mom to freak out when she saw it, but she immediately blamed my girlfriend and started asking how I could let her convince me to do something so disgusting. Aside of it being insulting that she thinks I'm that easily influenced, or that my girlfriend would ever try to convince me to get one, I snapped because every choice I make that my mom disapproves of, she just can't accept it could be coming from me. It's more insulting that she even finds who I am so unthinkable that she has to blame someone. I did try to remain calm until she said, "You can never wear a t-shirt around my family again." My family. That's when I lost it, because I'm so sick of hearing about how I shouldn't do what people, my friends, say, but that I should constantly consider how my mom will look to her family because she raised me. She failed to understand how hurt I would be that she refers to our family as her family, or that I would want to be myself in front of my family, and they're just as much mine as hers. When I told her I was hurt and why, all she had to say is, "Well, they will think less of you." I just need outside perspectives here. My mom is a pro at pretending to like people, is even, sometimes, nice to my friends' faces, and will immediately say how weird they are as soon as they're gone. She tells me she is saying these things to protect me, and that I am hurting her by not listening. When I say I'm hurt by it, she laughs, and she tells me everyone in my life secretly thinks this about me. No matter how we left things, though, the next time I see her, she will act excited to see me and that everything is okay. Am I going insane here? Is my mom manipulating me? Now to the next story, story 2. Entitled Parents Complain After Being Forced to Follow the Rules. I work in the security industry. I won't say where for fear someone will recognize this story. The main contract I work is with the local council, and one of the duties I perform is inspecting public halls after they have been rented for a function. Usually it's just private citizen having birthdays/anniversaries/wedding receptions, etc. Most of the time there are no problems. The worst being the space hasn't been properly cleaned. That's not a problem for me. I call the cleaning company the council has a contract with, and they send someone out, hopefully before the place gets used again. The fee comes off the deposit paid for the hall. No skin off my nose. On a good day, these inspections take 10 to 15 minutes. A good day being when I arrive and everyone has already left, or is about to leave and can do any little jobs that wouldn't be worth calling in the cleaning crew. Another thing that should be noted is the terms and conditions to which everyone has to agree before being allowed to use the hall state they have a maximum of 60 minutes after their allotted time has finished to vacate. After that, they are considered to be trespassing, and the police can be called to remove them. The worst thing about this is when the people hiring the space go over time. I get paid by the job, not the hour, so a booking running long means I'm waiting for them to finish while not getting paid. And it's always the same excuse. Oh, we lost track of the time, sorry. Funnily enough, it always seems to be the people who are well off who run long. They seem to think they can just throw money at the problem and it will go away. Take this past weekend. The booking, an 18th birthday party, was scheduled to finish surprisingly early for a weekend night. I arrived the stipulated 10 minutes before the booking is supposed to be finished to find that the cleaning has only just begun. To be clear, doing a good job requires at least 45 minutes, and these people had so much stuff it took them at least that long to get their personal stuff out of the building, let alone making a start on the cleaning. Knowing all this, I go in and speak to the people who hired the hall, the parents of the birthday girl. I know from experience they wouldn't be able to get everything done in time, and politely suggested they focus on clearing out their own belongings so I could call the cleaners in. But I wouldn't be here if they listened, would I? No, they insist everything will be fine. They'll get everything cleaned and just pay whatever extra fee the council charged them for the extra time. However long it took them to clean, they would pay for the time, regardless of the fact they are in breach of the contract they agreed to when they signed. No matter how I explained they would not be able to finish everything, they insisted on using the full hour they weren't really entitled to get everything done. To clarify, they were supposed to have had everything packed, cleaned, and been out by the end of their booking, and the extra hour was going to cost them big. Needless to say, with 15 minutes to go, they have only just finished clearing out their gear, having stopped for 10 minutes or so to take some group photos in the process. I tell them they have run out of time. They need to get all their gear out so I can call in the cleaners, as there was still a lot to be done. At the time they seemed accepting of everything, though the mother made a point of telling me she would be calling first thing Monday to talk Tati Booking's team. In retrospect, this was her threatening to go my manager, though I am not myself a council employee. They ended up clearing out just before the hour expired, and I was finally able to begin the inspection. Oh, and the real kicker was they scheduled the caterers to pick up their gear 45 minutes after the scheduled end of the booking. I'd all but forgotten the issue until this morning, until I received a call from the council officer who is the liaison between the council and the company I work for. Turns out the mother was true to her word and had filed a complaint about the fact I forced them to adhere to the conditions to which she agreed. Thankfully, the liaison knows me and my work, and once I explained the situation, he agreed I was simply following council protocol. I've no idea how my boss is going to react, as the company only recently took over the contract and they don't know me as well. If anything else comes of it, I will update. My apologies if this isn't as exciting as other stories here, but the sheer arrogance displayed by these people, their disregard for the fact they have breached their agreement, got right up my nose, to put it politely. Oh, and the kicker was they believed they had the right to stay because the caterers they hired were late. FML. Next story, Story 3. Am I a bad daughter? I'm super introverted, unlike my extroverted family. My youngest sister is very close to my dad and plays sports. My middle sister is charismatic, but incredibly selfish. She's constantly being fired from jobs and failing college. On the other hand, I'm a 22-year-old college student with a 3.5 GPA, set to graduate in spring 2025. I have a full-time job at the university as a teaching assistant and program coordinator, and I also have a part-time job to help pay for some of my bills. Despite my efforts and achievements, I've never felt a strong bond with any particular parent. My dad put so much pressure on me to play sports that it became unenjoyable, and my parents are unsupportive of my passions. I have ADHD, so I struggle to focus and notice things, which my parents misinterpret as laziness or thoughtlessness. Recently, I spoke up against my mother for constantly berating me during our calls. She always points out my teenage flaws, despite my efforts to change. We live in different states, and they rarely call me first. When I visit, I do my best to help around the house and endure their criticism without reacting. During my teenage years, I had hormonal outbursts, but I don't do that anymore. When I asked my mom why she always lectures me, I was hoping to start a genuine, healthy conversation, but she couldn't handle it. I had to attend community college because my parents didn't believe I'd make it through a year of college, even though they let my almost dropout sister go straight to a university. I'm currently abroad studying a foreign language with my boyfriend. I recently found out my crazy sister, whom I allowed to live with me due to her bad terms with most people, is causing issues again. She posted on her story, forgetting to remove me, that she was smoking weed in my apartment and blew the smoke into my dog's face. I don't care if she smokes, but I set ground rules. If she was going to smoke weed or vape, it had to be outside because I have asthma. It's not good for the dog, and most importantly, we live in a state that doesn't allow weed. I confided in my youngest sister about what I saw, and she told my parents. I didn't want to tell them because they take me telling these things as me bullying my sister and treat me as a villain, but they are also upset with my sister and are happy to know. I planned to deal with it when I got back, but my youngest sister loves my dog, so she told them. My dad called me and ranted about what he's going to do about my sister since he helps me pay my rent and pays her phone bill. Then he turned it around on me, saying how I'm such a bad daughter because I sometimes talk back and how ungrateful I am for everything I have. I didn't say anything and just took the verbal smackdown. This is exactly why I didn't want them to know. It always turns into how I'm also the problem when I didn't do anything. I always thank them for everything and never ask for more. I'm just at a loss for what to think. I don't want to classify my parents as abusive, though I do feel worthless and have been feeling this way for a long, long time. Sorry for the rambling, but that's my situation. Now last story, story 4. My dad is the example of a 40-year-old child. He lives with his mom off his mom's money, complains like a child, and acts like it's everyone else's fault. He recently lost his life because his phone turned off one day and never turned back on. The issue is that he doesn't seem to want to blame himself for the fact that he forgot his password. Now he's walking around the house complaining about Metro and saying it's bullshit. He then continues to rant about how he's gonna disappear and leave for a long time. As well as how it's God's faults and how he would slap God when he met him, alongside how he'd burn all the churches and Bibles in America down because it's God's fault that my dad can't get his way. I'm not religious and it doesn't bother me. I'm simply using this as an example of his childish acts. Another one of his biggest things is he's homophobic. Anytime shit is whack or stupid, he says it's gay, and how F words made it this way for him to get his way. I am bi. He doesn't know, but again, it doesn't bother me. This is just another example. Reasons why my dad is childish are fairly simple. Anytime he gets on a video game and it doesn't go his way, he blames the nerds for the reason he can't figure out a simple puzzle, and then actively complains about how Microsoft is shit and why if he ever met Bill Gates he'd eliminate him because it's clearly Bill Gates' fault he couldn't afford a DLC for AC Valhalla, or he couldn't afford Game Pass, or he couldn't afford something else. He can't get his beer, weed, cigs, vapes, and shit. So it's clearly everyone else's fault he's addicted, but the issue is he won't ever admit he is addicted. Every month at the end of the month he goes on a speech about not being nice anymore and not cooking for anyone anymore because, you guessed it, shit didn't go his way. So yes, we are almost out of food and everything requires cooking. Not an issue, and I'll make it. We are out of money, and it's clearly not his fault. He spent it all within the first week of the month on everything except for food. At the beginning of every month he's a cool guy, but not a great dad simply because he has all of his addictions. He never takes accountability for his actions, and he's well into his 40s. In conclusion, my dad is not a good person, and this is his recent behavior, not even his past behavior. If had to talk about that, we'd be here forever, and it's already long enough as it is. If this post isn't an example of an entitled parent, I'd love to know where else to post this, as I just want an outlet to let this rant go to.